May it please the court, my lady. Morning.
Nelly, may you please call the matter into the record?
Thank you, Judge. Today is 11th of February 2022, calling the matter of Life Esidimeni Inquest, case number I-001 of 2021. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Gordon.
Good morning, my lady.
My lady.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, my lady. My lady, if I may apologize for yesterday and the delay that I caused. We had a problem with the electricity in our premises, my lady. I apologize. Thank you so much, my lady.
Mrs. Gordon, you are reminded that you are still under oath.
Yes, my lady.
Ms. Govender, you indicated yesterday that you are finished with your cross-examination. Is that still the same?
That's correct, my lady. I have no further questions for this witness. Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. Mr. Pinar, you are the one to follow.
May it please the court, my lady. I have no questions for the witness.
Thank you. Mr. van Bergen.
Thank you, my lady. My lady, I do have questions for Ms. Gordon. The issues that I wish to traverse cover this background about her own duties. Secondly, the duties of NGOs in the process of receiving mental health care users. And then I wish to address the various allegations that have been made pertaining to Life Esidimeni relating to records, medication, and the condition of patients.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, my lady. Ms. Gordon, good morning.
Good morning, Counsel.
I'm Harry van Bergen. I appear for Life Esidimeni in these proceedings. As I've indicated in my outline to her ladyship, I wish to start off just by getting a bit of background about yourself. Can you advise her ladyship what qualifications you hold, professional qualifications, and then just give a bit of background on your experience in the field of mental health care?
Thank you, Counsel. I have a degree in nursing, BCur, and then I also did masters in psychiatry. I've been working since 1997 in a mental health clinic, and then in 2010 I was headhunted to the district to become an Sister Virtue with the NGOs.
And is that
I've also been...
My apologies, carry on.
I've also been working together with coordinating clinics, mental health clinics in the district. And that includes also conducting audits and inspections at the NGOs, doing unannounced and announced visits at the NGOs, monitoring and evaluation.
Thank you.
Yes.
On the issue of audits, what is the intention or what is the purpose of holding an audit?
When we do a full multidisciplinary audit is to determine whether the NGOs are fully compliant. Because under normal circumstances, an NGO should be well established and it should also be self-sufficient. But we don't issue a license when an NGO is not fully compliant. So that is why we do audits, so that we can assist the NGOs into improving and we give them timelines to improve on what is not available.
Right. And in addition to these audits, which, if my understanding is correct, is designed to make sure that NGOs are fully prepared and ready and capable of receiving mental health care users, are there any other sort of audits that are done?
What we also did is, under normal circumstances, we do unannounced visits at the NGOs where we just give them support, without a multidisciplinary team. The coordinators of the district will go to the NGOs and we used to call it the Gemba walk, where we observe the structure and we give them information, but there is not a full MDT audit. That is what we used to do quarterly before we do the final audits at the end of the year.
I understand. So, sorry, just with regard to what you mentioned now, final audits at the end of the year, is there an annual audit each year of an NGO?
That's right. That's right, Council. That is before we have to do the adjudication and the licensing, because NGOs are licensed annually.
Thank you. Now, just stepping off from your duties and going over to NGOs, you've now dealt with the audit to check whether the NGOs are fully compliant. What would render an NGO fully compliant? What are the requirements?
According to the audit tool that we've used, there's a lot. There's a structure. We look at the structure of the NGO.
Yes.
We look at whether there is going to be safety for the mental health care users. We look at whether the ablution facilities are okay and in relation to...
Ms. Gordon, just slow down a bit.
You look at the structure?
We look at the structure, the building.
Yes.
Of the NGO, the entrance. We look at whether the NGOs have ramps and rails.
Have? The entrance have?
Ramps and rails for disabled people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the safety, whether there's no obstruction for the mental health care users. We look at whether the ablution facilities are in order.
Yes.
Whether there is safe water. We also advise the NGOs to have a JoJo tank for a backup system for water. Electricity should be in place. They should also have a backup for electricity, like maybe gas stoves or, if possible, a generator. Safety is very important for the mental health care users. Their beds, the spaces where they will be sleeping, the rooms, whether there's enough food. The kitchen should have a fire blanket. It should have cleaning schedules. The menu should be specific to the NGO's conditions.
Ms. Gordon, sorry if I may interrupt you. So all these aspects that you have mentioned now appear to relate to the facility itself and whether the facility and the contents are of a nature that will ensure the safety of mental health care users. Would that be a fair summary?
Well, there should also be a criteria for the type of mental health care users that should be admitted to the NGO. The category is very important.
Yes.
Because the needs of the NGO, the mental health care users, is very important. We normally deal with either intellectually, severe and profound intellectually disabled, and then we also deal with chronic psychiatric disabilities.
Yes.
So, and then the staffing is also very important. because in the case of chronic psych, the ratio will be 1 to 10 mental health care users. In the case of severe and profound, the ratio should be 1 care worker to 5 mental health care users. And there's many
Come
others.
again? Just a
The
second.
ratio,
The
my
ratio
lady,
is 1 to 10 in respect
for
of?
chronic psych, for chronic psychiatric disability. And for
then 1
severe
to
and
5?
profound is for severe and profound intellectually disabled
Okay.
users.
Thank you. As regards staffing, except for the numbers, is the qualification or the skills or experience of the staff in the management of mental health care users important?
Very important, because we are dealing with mental health care users. Especially the staff should be trained in how to deal with the mentally ill patient. It's a specialized skill to look after mentally ill patients. It's very important.
Yes, we have heard from other witnesses that preceded you that mental health care users as a group are vulnerable, they do require special care, and that they are prone to suffer distress when their normal circumstances are disturbed or changed, and they can, at very short notice, unpredictably deteriorate, fall ill, just go into a condition which ultimately can lead to regression of their underlying conditions. Would you agree with that?
That's right, Council.
So these are not the sort of patients that can be treated roughshod and without due attention being given to safeguarding their mental equilibrium at all times. Would you agree?
It is so true, Council.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon, just as regards the process that takes place when mental health care users are transferred to an NGO, I want to deal with certain aspects with you. The first is, and this was what former witnesses have testified, and I would like to hear whether you agree with that, is that it is uncommon for large groups of mental health care users to be transferred from one facility to another. Would you agree?
I will agree with it, Council.
And that the customary way is to do it with individual mental health care users. Would you agree?
That is right, Council.
And the reason is because of the potential hazards inherent in removing a mental health care user from a known, safe environment where the user has formed attachments with the staff and the facility to another facility where he doesn't know the people, he doesn't know the facility itself, it can cause the user to act unpredictably, not so?
Exactly, especially fear of the unknown.
Yes.
Miss Merritt, I'm sorry, I
Thank you, my lady. My
Yes,
lady,
ma'am.
I'm going to object pertaining to the line of questioning due to the fact that evidence that the movement caused distress to these patients.
I'm not
I
sure. Am I the only one who can't hear you? Can you hear him, Mr. Van Bergen?
A lady, Ms. Marriott did break up. It was a bit difficult. Maybe.
Yes, there was a time that she broke up.
Yes.
Yes, just can you just repeat?
My lady, I'm going to object pertaining to the line of questioning. This is undisputed evidence thus far pertaining to the movement of the patients causing distress towards them. I do not see why we need confirmation from this witness on record.
Mr. van Bergen?
Thank you, my lady. The reason why I'm asking the witness these questions, my lady, is it precedes and leads up to other questions that I'm going to put to her, which if I were to put to her out of the blue, will not have the necessary background and context without the aspects which I'm dealing with now.
Okay, Ms. Marriott?
Thank you, my lady. Then I'll leave it at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
As your ladyship pleases. Ms. Gordon, the difficulties that were alluded to relating to the transfer of a single mental health care user will become exponentially bigger and more serious if large groups of users are transferred simultaneously. Would you agree?
I will agree with that, Council.
Thank you. Now, the second part, and the reason I brought you along this path of transfer of users and the impact it has on them, I assume that when mental health care users are transferred to an NGO, and specifically a new NGO, that there are certain protocols that are followed to ensure the safe integration of the users into that NGO. Is that correct?
That's right, Council.
Can you advise her ladyship, and for my own knowledge, if you can take it on a step-by-step basis almost, from getting off the bus to being taken in, how are the users dealt with on arrival at an NGO? Or how should they be dealt with?
Well, they should be accompanied by, because they are entering a completely different and new environment. They should be led into it, and they should be reassured that everything will be okay. But the fact that they did not know where they were going to is created in them a fear. So we have to be very careful that we introduce them gradually into this new environment, because remember, NGOs, mental health care users, they become attached to the environment quickly, and now they have to adapt to a new environment. So it is very important to explain to them everything, every step of the way, you know, until they get into what is to be expected, and etc.
Right. Ms. Gordon, perhaps I can put to you what I understand, and you can tell me whether it is correct or not. On arrival of mental health care users, the first thing would be to ensure that all the users are present that should be there, not so?
That's right.
They should be identified, is that correct?
That's right.
And whatever belongings they have with them, whether it is clothing or medication or records, should be taken into safekeeping and placed in a safe place where it cannot get lost. Would you agree?
I will agree. Council?
It is also important for the NGO on admission to individually assess each mental health care user. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that is to ensure that the mental health care user, well, to enable the new NGO to apprise itself of the condition of each mental health care user. You would agree?
That's right, Council.
And that would be done by qualified personnel, either nursing staff, but preferably a medical practitioner. Would you agree?
Professional nurses could also do that.
Yes.
Also.
An important aspect that actually precedes all of this and forms part of the preparation of the NGO is to ensure that where users are going to require access to medication, that the necessary linkage is made between the NGO and the nearest clinic, state clinic, from which medication can be obtained and to which users can be taken if necessary.
That's right, Council.
And as I indicated, that is something that actually should be in place prior to any user being received. You're nodding in agreement.
Preparations will be necessary.
Well, it's not only necessary; it is crucial. It is the foundation stone of the safety and health of the mental health care users that are going to be received, is it not?
That's right, Council.
And without the proper preparation, mental health care users are immediately at risk, potentially at risk. Would you agree?
I would agree, Council.
Especially if the NGO does not have properly qualified or experienced staff as regards the care of mental health care users. You would agree. Thank you. And the examination or assessment of a mental health care user upon admission must be recorded in the NGO's file pertaining to each individual user, not so?
That's right, Council.
Each user will have an individual file, and that will contain not only any documentation that the user was sent with or transferred with, but also the contemporaneous admission evaluation findings.
That's right, Council.
Thank you. Now, against that background, Ms. Gordon, may I ask you to turn to page 415 on case lines.
Four and five.
My apologies, it's not 415, it is 414. That is annexure RCG1 to your affidavit. And if you can just tell me when you are there.
Is it the one that starts with Life Esidimeni project?
Indeed, yes. You will remember
Yes.
there was reference to this document yesterday.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, you testified yesterday that the background as contained in paragraph 1 and the number of patients identified for placement in paragraph 2 and the information in paragraph 3, number of patients placed at NGOs, was obtained from within the department and was not compiled by yourself. Is that correct?
That's right, Council.
And that you completed the document from paragraph 4 onwards. Do you agree?
Where the questions and answers were. Yes, that's right, Council.
Now, sorry, I just have to get the documents next to each other. If one looks at the foot of page 415, that is the schedule setting out the number of patients placed at NGOs. Do you have it, Ms. Gordon?
Yes, Council.
The last date appearing there is 26 May 2016. Would I be correct in surmising from that your answers were provided or were compiled from paragraph 4 onwards, shortly after 26 May 2016?
I cannot really recall, Council.
Well, I assume if it had been done later than that, that schedule would probably have contained transfers on dates later than 26 May. Would you agree?
Transfers continued until end of June.
I beg your pardon?
The transfers continued until end of June.
Yes, that is why my impression of this is that you compiled this roundabout or shortly after 26 May, when the June transfers had not yet commenced. Would that be a fair assumption?
That should be right, because number 3 was not compiled by me. The number of patients placed at NPOs.
Yes, but you relied on that.
Yes, Council.
If one reads the content of paragraphs 4, 5, well, up to the end of the document, that would predominantly relate to issues involving the Gauteng Department of Health and its officials. Would you agree?
I would agree, Council.
If one were, for example, to look at paragraph 5 on page 416, the heading is Arrangement for Medication for the Different Institutions, NGOs. The region has to provide and make arrangements with the regional pharmacy to dispense and collection by the NGO directly from regional pharmacy. This was confirmed by Mr. Lehau, etc. So that was the only issue regarding to medication that you deemed necessary of referring to at that point under that heading. Would you agree?
That's right, Council.
If you would then turn to page 417, the paragraph number, and there seems to be a repeat of numbers, but be it as it may, paragraph 6, challenges, resolving of issues, needs, timeframes. And the first one under possible challenges is 1, finalization of medication. Do you see that?
I see that, Council.
And it reads, Ms. H. Jacobus and myself approached Dr. Pariachi and Dr. Mare to assist with assessment of mental health care users and renewal of prescriptions for 6 months. At hospital level, Ms. Jacobus also approached different medical officers to assist with renewal of prescriptions. Excuse me. Regional pharmacist Michelle were approached for the possibility of dispensing and collection by the NGOs directly from regional pharmacy by making use of a lockable trunk. All NGOs has more than 50 users within the centre. Presently, all facility managers of clinics were informed about the high influx of mental health care users at their clinics. Medication remains a shortage at clinics, hence the need for direct dispensing from regional pharmacy. Those were the only issues concerning medication that you deemed necessary of including in the report. Is that correct?
Mainly shortage, Council. Shortage
Yes.
of medication, yes, was a
problem. My apologies for interrupting you. Shortages pertaining to access of medication at regional pharmacies and clinics. You're nodding in agreement, is that correct?
That's right, Council.
Then item 2 relates to finalization of completing subsidy forms. The next, support of all NGOs at allocated clinics by clinic personnel. The fourth one, finalization of registration for funding by NGOs and region. The fifth one, finalization of contract documents and signing by Chief Director. And that was important because by that stage, the necessary formal documentation, which should actually have preceded licensing and receipt of mental health care users, had not yet been complied with. Is that correct?
That's right, Council.
And then if you go over to page 418, starting of training of all of refreshments, and then 7 appendixes, no memorandums or any other paperwork received from Life Esidimeni. Now, there was no direct communication between the district and Life Esidimeni. Communication was between Provincial Department of Health and Life Esidimeni. You would agree?
That's right, Council.
Yes. So you would not have expected paperwork from Life Esidimeni directly to the district. You would agree?
But it was important for them for the mental health care users to have their correct documentation.
We're not dealing with that now, Ms. Gordon. This does not relate to documentation of mental health care users. You say no memorandums or any other paperwork received from Life Esidimeni. It does not relate to records of mental health care users. Not so.
That's right.
You're not in agreement. You must please just articulate your answer so that the record can reflect that.
I said right, so Council.
Thank you. The Provincial Directorate are responsible for finalising the NGO for placement and final readiness and placement of all users. So that was all that you deemed necessary at that point in time to have recorded in this document. Can you perhaps just, and you may have mentioned it yesterday, but I have not made a note of it. What was the purpose of this document?
Council, when I was introduced for the very first time at SIU by a advocate, Michael Barnabas, I had to take him through the entire process of Life Esidimeni, including the background. And I was there for 3 days, so I had to tell him everything. And so I even gave him a whole lot of documents pertaining to Life Esidimeni.
Yes, but was this document, well, let me rephrase the question. If this document was intended as a background document for the SIU, then the issues addressed in it do not make sense. Because if you look at RCG1, it is clearly prepared and reflects as having been prepared while transfers were still in progress.
These questions were posed to me, as I can remember very well. I can't just remember, but it was sent to me by email and I had to respond to it. Sorry, Council, this is not part of, definitely, because I was introduced, I was interviewed by Mr. Barnabas after Life Esidimeni had occurred. Sorry for this, yeah. This was questions posed to me by Directorate.
By Directorate? By the Mental Health Directorate or by the SIU?
By the Mental Health Directorate, yeah.
So it had nothing to do with the SIU at that stage?
I shouldn't think so.
Yes. If you look at it carefully and if you need time to do so, then please make use of time. But the manner in which it is compiled and the issues that are addressed are or reflect a contemporaneous concern of issues during.
Just a second.
My lady, I don't see the relevance for this line of questioning. It will not bring this court further to the findings pertaining to the inquest. It goes to maybe to the credibility of the witness and remembering the facts. Therefore, I'll object to this line of questioning.
Mr. van Bergen?
Thank you, my lady. My lady, there is a second document of the same nature, and I'm going to compare the two with one another. And it is important to know when each one was prepared. It relates to the issues that I need to address with this witness as regards various allegations made against Life Esidimeni. I submit it's a fair question. It is relevant to the purpose, and it should be allowed, my lady.
Ms. Marriott?
My lady, once again, it goes to the credibility of the witness. It doesn't go to the findings of the court whether Life Esidimeni were negligent or causing the death of the deceased pertaining to this inquest. Therefore, I still object to this line of questioning. If my colleague wants to indicate differences between the document, he should do so, but to establish when these documents were drafted and for what purpose, I would submit it's not relevant for this court.
Okay, can we just allow him and hear how he posed these questions, and then at a later stage when we see that he's not going anywhere, that's when maybe you can raise that objection.
Thank you, my lady.
Mr. Bergen?
My lady, I have no doubt you will pull me up short very quickly if I stray beyond.
Okay, continue, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you, my lady. Ms. Gordon, you indicated that you agreed that the issues addressed herein were issues that occurred during the course of transfer and not subsequent to transfer.
That's right,
Yes.
counsel.
If we can then turn to page 4888.
Thank you.
Do you have it, Ms. Gordon?
I have it, counsel.
Now, this document superficially looks much like the one at RCG 1. The first page, the background, is much the same as RCG 1, and you mentioned yesterday in your evidence that up to the line, some questions I had to answer on page 4889, the information had been obtained from elsewhere. You confirm that?
That's right, counsel.
If you look at the schedule on page 4889, the last date appearing therein in the left-hand column is 18 August 2016. You see that?
I see that, counsel.
So here we can accept, I am sure, that this document was prepared, as you said earlier, because of a request from the Mental Health Directorate after 18 August 2016, in other words, after finalization of the marathon project. Would you agree with that?
It's possible.
Well, it could not have been done before 18 August, you would agree.
I would agree, counsel.
Now, once again, question 4, how far is placement planned for remaining until final closure? I cannot give an answer to this. Placements are being done throughout Gauteng, depends on provincial placements. That's the same answer as in RCG 1. Can you perhaps just explain, seeing that this was now after 18 August, when placements from Life Esidimeni had been finalized, why this answer was given?
Counsel, I have no idea, to be honest. I cannot recall why this could have been.
let's leave it at that. If you don't have an answer, then let's leave it at that. If you can turn over to page 4890.
4890.
That's the next page. Paragraph 5, arrangement for medication for the different institutions, NGOs. And the answer is much the same as in the previous document, you would agree.
I would agree, Council.
And none of these aspects in paragraphs on page 4890 pertain to Life Esidimeni. You would agree?
This was arrangements made for Tshwane district
Yes.
pertaining to medication and pharmacy.
Yes, this relates to what we discussed earlier, namely the necessity of linking an NGO to a regional pharmacy and clinic. Not so.
That's right, Council.
Can I just interject here? The question was, none of the aspects contained on this page 4890 pertain to Life Esidimeni. What is your answer? I don't think you have answered this.
It was because this is the issue at hand. This was the issue at hand, my lady.
Okay, you can take it from there, Mr. Van Bergen.
Thank you, my lady. You say it relates to the issue at hand. Let's read what you wrote here. And bearing in mind your first answer to that question was no, it relates to the district. That was your initial answer. What is written here is the region has to provide and make arrangements with the regional pharmacy to dispense and collection done by the NGO directly from regional pharmacy. This was confirmed by Mr. Lehau, our Assistant Director for Mental Health. I put a question to you earlier saying this relates to the issue that had been discussed earlier in my examination of you, namely that NGOs had to be linked with regional pharmacies and clinics, and you agreed, not so?
That's right, Council. But
And
can I
that-
also explain?
I'll ask you, I'll give you an opportunity now. And this relates to the normal course of events. Patients who require medication must be linked with regional pharmacies and clinics, irrespective of where they come from. Not so?
That's right, Council.
Yes. How can this be read other than this is what paragraph 5 pertains to?
In this regard, it was in preparation for the huge number of NGOs that we had received. Remember, Tshwane had received the bulk of the NGOs.
Ms. Gordon, we have already established that this document was prepared after the marathon had been concluded. 18 August 2016, the last users were transferred at the end of June 2016. This is more than 6 weeks later. So this
Council,
is not,
I was just only answering the question that was posed to me at
yes,
that time.
but it had nothing to do with Life Esidimeni. It dealt with arrangement for medication for the different institutions, NGOs, in the normal course of events, not so.
It could be.
Well, not it could be, Ms. Gordon. It is. It can't be anything else. Isn't that so?
I would agree with you, Council.
Yes. If you could turn over to page 4891. The heading is preparations that led to this huge disaster. It sets out certain background. It relates to individuals that were identified. It sets out endeavors to have set up NGOs at hospitals, Kalafong, Steve Biko, and so forth. So that page appears to me to have no more in it than history. Is that correct? And you're welcome. Right. And you're welcome to read it before you answer, Ms. Gordon. You must just please indicate. Then if we turn over to page 4892, the first paragraph reads, Mrs. Jacobus and Mr. Tabani identified people to run these NGOs. However, no capital funds nor kick-up start were provided, which left these individuals highly stranded, but they attempted this process with much effort. In the interim, several visits were done by the district team to guide these NGOs with minimal resources, trying to compensate, but with hardly any success. That relates solely to the Gauteng Department of Health and its officials. You would agree?
Including the district council?
Yes. Well, the district falls under the Gauteng Department of Health, not so.
That's right. Yes.
Next paragraph, in the interim, Dr. Manamela rushed to license these premises without proper audits done by the MDT team. Now, if I can stand still there for a moment, you agreed earlier that proper audits and insurance that an NGO has met with all compliance standards is the foundation stone of the safety of mental health care users. You're nodding in agreement.
That's right, in council.
So this foundation stone was never laid. You would agree?
Council, it was a rushed process, and when I asked Dr. Manamela why I was not following protocol, she told me that these things were not done under normal circumstances and that we would correct it later.
Yes, no, I understand that, Ms. Gordon. I understand that. But the fact is, and I'm not naming any names, I'm just saying the foundation stone for the safety and security of the mental health care users was never laid in this project.
Not in this case, council.
Yes. And you then continue in that paragraph and say what you had just said. On approaching her, she explained that corrections would be done later and assured us that this process is not done under normal circumstances. I was utterly astounded and humbly avoided insubordination as she explained that this is all pressure from the MEC and out of her control. My worst nightmare was that no adjudication was done whatsoever. Ms. Gordon, why was that your worst nightmare?
Because under normal circumstances, after all the final audits are done, council, we have to do an adjudication to determine which NGO should be licensed and which should not receive, or which NGO should receive a temporary license. But in this case, everybody received licenses, you know.
I understand that, but why was it your worst nightmare? What were you concerned was going to happen?
That the NGOs were not fully compliant and they were not ready to receive. The only NGO that was fully compliant was El Shaddai.
Yes, I understand that you say that they were not fully compliant and they were not ready, but what was the consequence of their non-compliance and unreadiness that you had this worst nightmare about?
The fact that NGOs were not having their, what do you call it? Remember, we had this, they call it a subsidy form that must be completed for the NGOs to receive funding. And this was not completed, so the NGOs could not get funding if this applications for subsidy form was not completed. And it was my worry, because then how would the NGOs be able to give proper service delivery without these things being in order?
Ms. Gordon, we eventually got to it. Your worst nightmare was that this non-compliance and unreadiness was going to compromise the health and safety of mental health care users. Is that not so?
That's right, in a way.
Why in a way? In
But
what way?
because despite the fact that the NGOs were not given the funds for the first 3 months, we tried our utmost best to get them the necessary resources to continue until they get their finances. We had given them, we tried to get donations of food, blankets, etc.
No, I accept that. We heard the evidence of Ms. Jacobus, who explained the efforts that you and she went to, amongst others, to try and rectify issues that should have been put in place before users were received. Not so.
That's right, Council.
So your concern here was there was no adjudication, the places aren't ready, places aren't compliant, the places are not going to be able to look after mental health care users as they should be looked after. Do you agree?
That's right, Council.
Yeah. The next paragraph, eventually on the 12th of May, the first group of MHC users from Life were transferred to Chepong and Oderile. Note well, no contracts were signed yet. No application for subsidy forms were completed then. No final visits done by infrastructure to declare the structures fully compliant and ready to deliver customer service. I remember very well the night of the 12th May 2016, I had to run around for blankets for more than 100 MHC users. It was winter then. Food, medication, and medical care was a huge challenge. This relates, Ms. Gordon, principally, once again, to what you had raised, that there had not been compliance and that the NGOs were not ready yet. And hence you had to run around. You agree?
That's right, Council.
Next paragraph, the more I complained about justice to our MHC users, the more pressure was enforced upon us. Surrounding clinics were never informed about the fact that clinics will be inundated with patients on medication. No measures were taken to prepare regional pharmacy for the high influx of MHC users. We've already established that is something that should have been done prior to users being received. And now you had to run around, and Ms. Jacobus had to run around to fix what should have been done in the first place. You would agree?
That's right, Council.
NGOs were not fully equipped with human resource, medication, basic necessities, let alone proper ablution facilities, ventilation, personal space, program areas, proper water supply, to mention but a few. Ms. Marriott?
I think you are muted, Miss Marriott. You are muted.
Thank you, my lady. I'm going to object, my lady. This document was already handed in through Mrs. Govender as a portion of the evidence of Mrs. Gordon, where she confirmed the contents of this document. I do not see why we must go through this document once again, read through it, and for this witness to confirm the contents thereof.
Mr. van Bergen?
Thank you, my lady. My lady, certain allegations have been made against Life Esidimeni, allegations which previous cross-examination of other witnesses had indicated she will comment on. I have to compare in this contemporaneous document prepared shortly after finalization of the marathon project, what issues were foremost in her mind as regards preparations that led to this huge disaster. It is directly relevant, my lady, to the issues that I need to address as they pertain to Life Esidimeni, and it relates to causation as well. Each of these issues that I've dealt with pertains to causation.
Ms. Merritt?
My lady, I would then submit that Advocate van Bergen goes directly to the questions that he wants to ask the witness, not merely going through the statement that she can just confirm.
Okay, thank you. Miss?
Thank you, my lady.
Okay.
I was going to turn to the very next paragraph, which for the first time deals with Life Esidimeni.
Okay, can you quickly go to, okay, continue.
Yes, I'm going to do exactly what my learned friend wishes to do, my lady, and that was the next point that I was going to deal with. Life Esidimeni did not do justice to these MHC users, transferring them without proper clothing. Some of them were transferred without any contact details of relatives, no files, no ID documents, and SASA cards. It was a hideous task to receive clients without the above mentioned, complicating the caring issue tremendously. Our district psychiatrist assisted in a reassessment of mental health care users to prescribe appropriate medication as per diagnosis and clinical presentations. Now, let's deal with the issues step by step. The first aspect that you raise is they were transferred without proper clothing. The evidence of the staff, both at Life Esidimeni and the Gauteng Department of Health officials who were involved with the transfer, was that all users were discharged with the necessary clothing, which included shoes. Do you dispute that evidence?
Counsel, the mental health care users, it was transferred from Waverley to Pong the day I was there. Some of them only had one plastic with maybe just their personal belongings like washing cloth and toothbrush. But other than that, they had nothing with them. And it was also confirmed with the manager of Tsepong, Mrs. Karina Morale.
Yes, don't introduce yourself.
I was there on the 12th of May. Sorry?
I want you to testify just what you observed and what you saw and what you experienced, not what other people saw or experienced or said to you. You said some of them did not have or only had one set of clothing. You cannot link this
That's
to...
right, not all of them.
Yes, you can't identify those who didn't have more than one set of clothing, can you?
No, Counsel, there were many.
Yes. Some of them were transferred without any contact details of relatives, no files. Let's deal with contact details of relatives. Are you aware that many of the mental health care users at Life Esidimeni facilities were people who had been found abandoned, who did not have relatives or who the relatives were not known of, and hence no information was available? Are you aware of that?
But it would explain why some of them did not have.
Yes. You see, my concern is, Ms. Gordon, criticisms are raised in the absence of the necessary background knowledge. No files. What files are you referring to?
The files with the medical history.
The evidence that was given, and
Mr. Van Bergen, I'm very sorry. Let me just interject here. Can we deal with the first portion that you dealt with? But I don't remember hearing the response. The one dealing with patients being transferred without any contact details. I just heard you explaining to her about the patients who has been there at Life Esidimeni, who have been in Life Esidimeni, who have been abandoned by families. But did she respond to that?
She did, my lady. She said that would explain why those details weren't available.
So she accepts that, okay.
I'm paraphrasing what she said, but she's welcome to confirm that.
Okay.
Is that correct, Ms. Morgan?
I did say so.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because what she must do, she must wait for you to pose a question, then from there respond. Otherwise, the record will be tainted. Continue.
As regards files, medical files, as you refer to them, the evidence of Dr. Mkachwa of Life Esidimeni, the evidence of Ms. Buthelezi of Life Esidimeni, the evidence of Dr. Lebete in cross-examination, and the evidence of Dr. Lenkwane, who was one of the Gauteng Department of Health officials at Waverley and later at Rand West, which evidence is uncontested, is that entire patient files are not transferred with a patient. Do you dispute that?
No, Your Honor. No, Counsel.
Continue.
So the fact that patients or mental health care users did not arrive with their full files is not strange. You would agree?
I would agree. It's only that the support manager was complaining to me.
Yes, once again, she will give her evidence. The evidence was also, and this was confirmed both from the Life Esidimeni side and the Gauteng Department of Health officials side, that mental health care users were discharged with a discharge report, MHCA 3, with periodical report, with a prescription, and with the transfer form MHCA 11. Some of them mentioned others as well, but these were the minimum that accompanied mental health care users. Can you dispute that?
I cannot answer on that because I did not witness the full.
You will also be aware, Ms. Gordon, that the National Health Act in Section 10 and the Mental Health Care Act in Section 17 provide only for discharge reports on transfer. You would agree with that? You're aware of that?
I would agree with it, Counsel.
Yes. And once again, even if it were to be correct, which is disputed, that the records provided were lacking in some way, you at this point cannot identify any particular user who had allegedly deficient records, can you?
Not specifically, no. Counsel.
ID documents and SASA cards. Once again, it's a matter of background information which you probably did not have. It was known to the Gauteng Department of Health at all times through the long association with Life Esidimeni, and again recorded in the minutes of meetings of the Mental Health Directorate, that they were aware that all users did not have ID documents and SASA cards. Will you accept that?
I accept that, Counsel.
You say our district psychiatrist assisted in reassessment of mental health care users to prescribe appropriate medication as per diagnosis and clinical presentations. Now, you don't raise it specifically here, but allegations have been made that instead of 28 days medication, only 7 days medication had been provided by Life Esidimeni. You would agree?
I would agree.
Is that the concern that you had about medication from
Yes.
Esidimeni? Now, once again, that is denied by Life Esidimeni and by the staff, the Gauteng Department of Health staff. But if it were to be found that there were instances in which only 7 days medication had been provided instead of 28, the uncontested evidence, specifically of Dr. Lenkwane being the most recent witness to have testified, was that it was brought to the attention of the Mental Health Directorate and that Dr. Manamela rectified the situation. Do you agree with that?
I would not know because I was at the Tsepong when these things occurred and we had to arrange the doctors to prescribe the medication.
You have earlier agreed that the mental health care users would have been assessed immediately following admission by either a professional nurse or a medical doctor, not so?
That's right.
So that is something that would have happened in any event. You would agree?
Yes, Council. I'm referring mostly to the 7-day medications that were not adequate.
Yes. Perhaps what we can do in that regard, if your ladyship will just bear with me for a moment. My lady, I must just find the page reference, if your lady will bear with me.
Okay.
Can I just go off camera for a moment, my lady?
Yes, you can.
Thank
That's
you.
fine.
Thank you, my lady. I'm indebted to your ladyship. Ms. Gordon, would you please turn to page 547 on case lines?
7. Which paragraph, Council?
I just want to identify the document to you. You will see that it's an affidavit of Mrs. Karina Morale of Chepong. Would you agree?
That's right, Council.
If you would then turn to page 549. Paragraph 7.
7.
Do you have it?
I have it, Council.
You will see she refers to 12 May 2016, and she says, on the 12th of May 2016, I received 93 patients, and on the 28th of May 2016, I received the second batch of 92 mental care users from Life Esidimeni Waverley and Rand West Care Centres, respectively. Just while we're there, those are enormous numbers to transfer in a single session, is it not?
That was my concern as well, Council.
And it actually predisposed those mental health care users to regression, becoming unpredictable, becoming ill, not so?
I would agree with you, Council.
The total number of mental health care users I received was 185. The patients were identified by Life Esidimeni staff members by calling their names, but patients did not respond. Would you find it strange for patients not to respond given those circumstances?
I wouldn't find it strange, Council.
Thank you. The patients were in possession of referral letters, medication for 21 days, which expired. So Ms. Morale will testify that the medication she received was for the mental health care users, was for 21 days instead of 28 days, and that it had expired. And she says again, no identification books and incomplete medical records, and she can address that when she testifies. She says the mental health care users were clinically not well, even if the staff of Life Esidimeni said they were assessed by the doctor. The evidence is that the doctor who assessed them was a Dr. Ghani who had been appointed by the Gauteng Department of Health. You wouldn't know about that, would you?
I was told about that, Council.
They were dirty and had no clothing and shoes. She says no clothing and shoes. That differs from what you said, but we'll deal with that when she testifies. I tried to refuse to take the mental health care users. I believe that I received MHCUs who were supposed to have been discharged to the mental hospital before they can be considered to be transferred to the NGOs. The patient's wellness and health was not good. I phoned Dr. Manamela to inform her about the expired medication and the patient's condition. Dr. Manamela told me that's the reason why they were closing Life Esidimeni, and Dr. Manamela can address that when she testifies. And then Dr. Manamela then contacted the management of Life Esidimeni, and the expired medication was rearranged at Life Esidimeni pharmacy. So according to Mrs. Morale, the issue of the medication was immediately sorted out. Do you disagree with that?
My lady, may I be allowed to raise an objection?
Yes, Mr. Pichela.
My lady, counsel is drawing a conclusion. The witness has not yet testified with regard to those circumstances. On the last occasion, I did indicate that I would obtain instructions on this aspect. Now, to draw a conclusion and say it was then rectified, immediately rectified, we don't know how long it took for it to be rectified, and whether that period was a reasonable period or not. That consideration will come when this witness comes to testify. So it suffices to merely put it as it appears on the statement and not add anything more, like immediate or and so on and so forth. Let the statement be read as it appears on the witness's statement, and nothing more to be embellished, as it pleases my lady.
Mr. van Bergen.
Thank you, my lady. I'll address that and address my learned friend's concerns, my lady. If I may continue.
Yes, you may continue.
Thank you, my lady. Ms. Gordon, from the wording of the last sentence in paragraph 7, Dr. Manamela then contacted the management of Life Esidimeni, and the expired medication was rearranged at Life Esidimeni pharmacy. Does that appear to indicate to you that Ms. Morale was satisfied at the time that she made this affidavit that the issue had been adequately addressed? Is that how
I
you
wouldn't know.
Right. We'll leave it at that. The point is, it was raised with Dr. Manamela, and the evidence uncontested from Dr. Lenkwane was that Dr. Manamela rectified matters. My lady, I note it is 11:12. Would this be an appropriate time for the tea adjournment?
Can I hear Mr. Pitlela? Did you want to say something?
Yes, my lady, again, with respect, when Dr. Lenkwane testified, we did take issue with the fact that it was the rectification. Hence, I indicated that I will get instructions on this aspect. So to
Yes,
say
that
it was uncontested,
come again?
to say that it was uncontested, I'm against the use of the word uncontested because it seems that we considered to this point. And that is what counsel has been put into the witness. To say the uncontested evidence of Dr. Lenkwane on this aspect is that the issue was rectified and so on. And that is not what transpired. There would not have been a need for me to say I'll obtain instructions on that aspect if the issue is not being contested. I mean, that's logical.
Okay. In any event, the witness said she doesn't know, isn't it? And
that was the answer.
yes, and we are well aware of the record, and this issue you will address it when your client testifies, isn't it?
Yes.
That has been noted. I agree. I hear what you are saying. You have placed it on record. The witness said she doesn't know, and you are saying now that what was put to the witness, according to you, it is not correct because you still said you were going to take instructions. That's what I'm saying. This is something that you are going to address with your witness, and that witness will also be cross-examined with regard to this evidence of Dr. Lenkwane. I get your point to say you do not agree with the statement that that evidence was not contested because you said you were going to take instructions. Thank you.
Indeed.
That has been noted. And then on this note is 16 minutes past 11. I think this is the opportune time for us to take the tea adjournment. The witness is warned. We will resume at 11:30.
As the ladyship pleases.
Thank you.
May it please the court, my lady.
As the court pleases.
We have now reconvened. Where is the witness?
I'm here, my lady.
Ms. Gordon, you are reminded that you're still under oath. You may proceed, Mr. van Bergen.
Thank you, my lady. Ms. Gordon, as
Yes, counsel.
as a registered nursing practitioner, you are enjoined by the rules of the South African Nursing Council to maintain the health status of healthcare users under your care by preventing accidents, injury, or other trauma, not so?
That's right, Your Honor. Counsel.
And you are also enjoined to advocate for patients, meaning that if you are of the opinion that a patient with whom you are involved or under your care is at risk of harm, that you must speak out in order to protect that patient from harm. Do you agree?
That is right, Your Counsel.
Now, in the instances where you say there was only a 7-day supply of medication instead of 28, I assume that came to your knowledge at an early stage.
That's right, Your Counsel. At the NGO, I was told, and I immediately reacted on it.
Yes, and you took steps to ensure, as you are enjoined by the rules under which you practice, to ensure that the patients did not come to harm. Is that correct?
That's right, Counsel.
Yes. So you ensured that medication would have been obtained so that a patient would not have an interruption of treatment. Is that correct?
Right, Counsel.
Thank
We
you.
want to prevent relapse.
Yes, yes. Ms. Gordon, if we can step off this aspect, and if you would please turn to page 411.
How do I go now to? Okay. What is the page number?
411. Do you have it?
I have it, Counsel. Which paragraph?
You'll see that it's your affidavit, and if I can refer you to paragraph 11, this was dealt with yesterday with regard to the various inspection reports annexed to your affidavit, as well as the report on page 4888. Now, I must confess it was not quite clear to me what the status of those various reports were. If we can perhaps just first start, you say in this affidavit, according to the facility scheduled inspection reports dated 21 July 2016, RCG2, the inspection conducted at Shammar House for traumatized persons was completed by retired Sister Frances Virtue. Is that correct? Did Sister Virtue complete the report?
Yes, and I was with her.
Okay.
I was taking over from her.
Sorry, I'm just making a note. And the issue pertaining to those audit reports, if I understand it correctly, is that the front pages were changed and you made additions to them.
That's right, Your Honor.
If I understood you correctly yesterday, you made those changes because you were placed under duress by Dr. Manamela, and if I have it wrong, then please say I have it wrong.
Yes. Council. I had to, she wanted something in black and white.
And she then required of you to make the changes that were made.
That's right.
Now, if you look at your affidavit, paragraph 11, we've dealt with Sister Virtue. The next sentence, I might have signed the document by mistake when someone collected the documents from the district office. That is not correct, is it?
I was supposed to make the change there, but what's her name? Miss Marriott went very fast yesterday, so I actually missed this part. I'm sorry about that.
Well, the point is, your evidence yesterday and confirmed today is that you made the changes because Dr. Manamela required them to be made. Here you say you might have signed the document by mistake. Surely the two are not compatible. So either the one or the other is true, but both can't be.
Yes, can we hear your response?
I definitely signed it.
Just a second, before you respond, you said something about yesterday that Miss Marriott were moved very fast. You don't know this, you could have missed this portion. Just explain the two so that we can understand as to why the two statements are not compatible.
Dr. Manamela had asked me for the audit reports, and I informed her that no audits were done at that stage. So she wanted something in black and white, so I had to just write what I could remember. But I definitely did sign it.
Ms. Gordon, that does not explain your statement on oath in paragraph 11 that I might have signed the document by mistake when someone collected the documents from the district office. Why did you say that?
Can you just go back to the paragraph 11? Yeah, that's the one.
We're waiting for an answer.
No, I definitely did sign it. There's just a mistake here that we did not attend to it yesterday. It was one of the things that I had to correct also. I definitely did sign it.
Ms. Gordon, I apologize, my lady.
Yes, continue.
The problem is not that you signed it. That's not what we're dealing with. The problem that we're dealing with is that you stated here on oath, I might have signed the document by mistake when someone collected the documents from the district office. That is what you wrote, and I assume you read this statement before you signed it in front of a commissioner of oaths. This differs by a world's breadth from your version that Dr. Manamela had compelled you to do this, to sign it and change the reports.
I don't understand what are you getting at, Council?
If I may, I don't know if
Your ladyship pleases.
Yes, you will correct me if I didn't capture what you've put to the witness correctly. All what counsel is putting to you is that you are saying you were compelled to make changes on the document. On the very same statement, you come again to say you might have signed the document by mistake. So these two statements, they are not compatible. So if you can explain the incompatibility of the two statements, because they don't make sense. You can't say that I was compelled to do something, while at the same time, then you come back to say you could have signed that by mistake. These two, they don't correlate. Is that correct, Mr.?
But I definitely signed them. It's just that it doesn't make sense to me also now.
Continue, Mr. Van Bergen.
Ms. Gordon, it's a simple
Yes, Your Honor.
it's a simple issue. It's an issue that goes to the core of your credibility.
Okay.
I suggest that the reason why you wrote and stated on oath that you might have signed a document by mistake when someone collected the document from the district office is that you tried to distance yourself from what you knew was fraudulent conduct and an attempt to disavow participation in that conduct. Is that not what happened here?
No, I did not predispose anybody to this document because nothing had changed from 2011 to 2016.
Ms. Gordon, I'm going
Yes.
to repeat what I said, and please listen attentively because you
Yes.
respond to what I put to you. I interpret what you said here as an attempt to distance yourself from the fraudulent changes to the audit reports. Is that not the truth?
No, Your Honor, it's definitely not fraudulent. These things were genuinely things that I knew about that I wrote there.
Ms. Gordon,
I have done the inspection.
to make changes
The virtue.
to make changes of the nature that you did, and as you say, under duress from Dr. Manamela, was not the truth, was it?
Just a second, there is a hand here. Mr. Martin?
Thank you, my lady. My lady, I'm not objecting to the line of questioning at all. I think it's perfectly valid. I'm just saying as a matter of fairness to the witness, perhaps if words like fraudulent are going to be used, and I think Mr. Van Berken might be doing that right now, so I might be premature here. But perhaps just out of fairness to the witness, can he explain to her what he means by fraudulent so she understands what the allegation is?
Thank you, my lady. I'm indebted to Mr. Martin. Ms. Gordon, in a nutshell,
Can you just put your hand down, Mr. Martin? Continue.
by making the changes and signing those audit reports, as was testified yesterday, they were changed and they purported to be something that they were not. Namely, that those were the reports as they had been prepared by you on the date on which you signed it, whereas in fact it had not been prepared on that date.
Counsel, I used the audit report of 2011 because I knew nothing had changed between 2011 and 2016, and I just added on to it so as to the time when Life Esidimeni admitted patients in 2016.
And all the other
Add
reports.
the information.
And all the other reports.
Which other reports, Counsel?
RCG 2.
There's an objection here by Ms. Toka. Ms. Toka?
Yes, thank you, my lady. My lady, I want I wanted to ask what the witness is asking from Mr. Bergen to indicate which reports is he referring to. The witness has already asked that question, my lady.
Yes, I think he's dealing with that.
Yes, my lady.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon, there are, after
Please put your name, your hand down.
After RCG 1, from page, I think the 421 on case lines.
Or 2-1.
Yes, my lady. There are audit reports. The first one on 421 is Shammer House. Then on 443, there's Precious Angels. On 457, it's again Precious Angels. On 469, Ubuslib and Kosi. On 483, Bopalong. And then 37271, that's the later one. So those are the other reports where changes were made as indicated yesterday. Do you recall now?
I recall.
Do you recall that you testified as to changes that were made to reports? Where they purported
to the Shama report.
Where they purported to be a report pertaining to an inspection or audit performed on a specific date, whereas in fact it had not been done on that date. You were purely relying on information that was 5 years old.
It's only Shama that was 5 years old. The others were all...
Right.
I wrote what I could remember because we were visiting the NGOs regularly.
Yes, Ms. Gordon, I'm not dealing with the content of the report. I'm dealing with the reason, or the two reasons, conflicting reasons you provided for why you signed it. I put to you what my interpretation was. You haven't responded to that. I'm not going to ask this question again. I'm going to leave it for argument, and I'm going to argue that your silence on this issue confirms the correctness of what I put to you, that it was an attempt to distance yourself from what you knew was incorrect behavior.
No, Council, the only Shama the report that I added on to was Shama. The others, there was no time and they wanted these reports, so I used the one because I know I was with Sister Virtue in 2011 and I knew nothing much had changed. That is why I added onto the document.
My lady, the witness has again not answered the question. I will leave it at that. I will leave it for argument on the basis, as I said I would. I have no further questions for this witness.
Thank you very much. After that is the team for, after you is the team for section 27 and SADC. Oh, Miss Asim, are you back?
Yes, my lady, I'm back.
Yes, this is your turn now. Do you have questions to this witness?
Thank you, my lady. I will be very short and I will try to keep it to just what direct knowledge the witness has of deaths and specifically at one NGO. So I won't be very long, my lady.
All right, thank you. Proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Gordon.
Good morning, Council.
My name is Adila Hassim, and I am a representative of families of the deceased. Ms. Gordon, can I take you to paragraph 9 of your statement, which is at page 410? Are you there?
I'm there, Council.
In paragraph 9, you refer to Tsepong Care Center in Attridgeville. And you specifically mentioned Tsepong in your statement. You single out Tsepong as an NGO that you spent some time at. Am I correct?
That's right. That's right, Council.
And
I'm going to ask you just a second, Ms. Gordon, please. I want you to speak louder for the purpose of the record. Just understand that these proceedings are on record. We have to hear what you're saying. Thank you. Proceed,
Thank you.
Ms. Asim.
And then, Ms. Gordon, you say that in paragraph 9, that you and Mr. Mohale assisted the center for the period of June, July, and few days into August 2016. So you were there at the time when mental health care users were dying, isn't that so?
Council, we worked there during weekends only because there were a shortage of staff. And me and Mr. Mohale had alternated the weekends just to help her out.
Yes, but the mental health care users were there on the weekends too, isn't that so?
Yes.
And so are you aware of patients that were transferred to Tsepong and then later demised?
I only remembered Sina Musale. They died at Laratong Hospital. That was terminally ill. I remembered Franz Decker. He had decipitous ulcers.
Just go slow. I'm going
and
to
then I
give
also
you a
remember
chance.
John Peterson.
Miss Gordon, just a second for me. You remember Sina Mosale?
Sina Musale, she was wheelchair bound and she eventually died at Laratong Hospital because she was terminally ill. That's what I remember.
Just a second. Yes, and the other one?
Franz Decker.
Yes, what about him?
Was also wheelchair bound and complicated by sepsis.
Come again?
And the third, he complicated by sepsis, was complicated by sepsis.
Okay, this was the one with the ear sepsis.
That's right, and then John Peterson. John Peterson.
John Peterson? Yes, what about him?
I think he was also, he just died. I can't remember what he died of. Really
Where did he die?
Remember.
Did he die at the hospital or at Tsepong?
I'm not sure. Not sure, my lady.
Okay. Continue, Miss Hasim.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. So you were aware that there were mental health care users that were ill at Tsepong?
Yes. At the weekends when we worked there, we even referred Sina Musala to hospital.
Right. So you
Referred them,
observed the
yes.
conditions of the patients.
We were helping with observations. We were helping with everything because they were short-staffed.
And what were your observations
About
the
the mental
condition
health care users.
and their condition? Yes.
The ones that we felt were very ill, we referred to hospital. But as I said with John, I couldn't remember how he died. I think he died at the center.
I don't know. I don't know.
Not in my presence.
No, if I may, I don't want to disturb you, but I'm asking myself, did he answer your question?
My lady, not quite.
Yes, please.
I'll try again.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon, you witnessed the condition of the mental health care users at Sepang, correct?
That's right, Council.
And my question to you is what were your observations? What was the condition of the mental health care users?
They were physically sick. They were not well.
Were they getting the medication they required?
They did. They did, Council.
Okay. And do you think they were getting the necessary care?
Well, as I said, we went there to help because they were short-staffed.
There's just a second there. There is Mr. Pitlela and Miss Marriott. Can I start? I don't know who started, but let me start with Mr. Pitlela. I'll come to you, Miss Marriott. Mr. Pitlela?
Yes, my lady. I wanted to object to this line of questioning for the simple reason that if counsel is talking about observation it's done over a particular period. There's no foundation set for that. I mean, to say where they're being cared for, it calls for a conclusion that is uninformed, unless the witness was present on site or there is an indication that she went there and observed a particular situation. Then that question I don't think it's fair. Can
we ask the witness to step aside before you start these objections? Can we, Mr. Late, let the witness step aside, please? Do you want to deal with this one first, or should I take the two also from Ms. Marriott so that you can deal with them at once?
My lady, may I just deal with this one first?
Okay, that's fine.
My lady, I first took the witness to her statement. She said that she was attending at Sepang Care Center several times over the months of June, July, and August.
Yes.
So the witness was present herself. She directly witnessed the state of the mental health care users, and I'm merely asking her what her observations were of the state of the mental health care users. We have very little direct evidence from witnesses thus far on what they saw in relation to the condition of the deceased. And I think it's a highly relevant question, and I would like to continue my line of questioning.
Okay, Mr. Pitlela?
Well, as I've indicated, it calls for an opinion. The witness must express an opinion. Is there a report where the witness has indicated that?
Why an opinion? Why an opinion? Because it's about her observations. She was there. The question was not about an opinion. She's just saying it's what she observed. That's that. Nobody asked for her opinion. She said physically they were not well. That's what she observed. She was there. She says she has been there for a period of from June to August. Although she says she has been going there over the weekends. That's what she saw.
But my lady, what I'm saying is it's not with regard to the first two questions that were asked. The last question asks, were they being cared for? That's a different proposition. Were they being cared for? And that's a different proposition from saying, what did you observe? Did you see them clean? Were they fed medication? That is fine. But to say, were they being cared for? You're calling for a conclusion. And if that is the case, then there should have been a report that has been compiled on that basis. The witness was there, she compiled a report. This aspect does not appear anywhere in her report.
Okay, thank you.
We are now eliciting something. We are now asked to make fresh observations of the case that she had a perfect opportunity to observe before. If it was important, then the witness would have indicated in a report.
Okay, the court will know how to deal with this evidence in case it's a call for an opinion. Right? The court will just know that whatever it gets from the witness is something that the witness observed. Ms. Marriott, if I may deal with you.
Thank you, my lady. Just for clarification purposes, is Advocate Hassim referring to all the patients that attended to the NGO or just the deceased she referred to? And if it's to all the patients, I would submit it's a quite unfair question because it's very vague and broad.
Okay, I thought she was dealing with those that the witness was talking about. I don't know. Let her clarify that. Ms. Kassim?
My lady, my question is clearly about the patients that the witness had direct contact with. She's mentioned that she was there and that she observed patients. That she in fact she answered the question already. She says that she went there to assist with the care over the week.
Yes, we get that, but the question is, I thought when you asked the witness when she started, because the concern here is that, is this a general question or are you referring to the specific patients? Because remember the witness, when she started, she gave the names of 3 patients. So yes. I thought, that's why I left you. I thought you were talking about these 3 that she remembers that she can talk about, unless if you ask her a direct question to say, this one, or come up with the specifics. How was this? Because we have been, we have gone through a lot of general questions now, and we don't want to be confused.
No, my lady, I appreciate
there is still a hand. I don't know whether somebody forgot to put his or her hand down. If you can just put it down if you don't want to say anything. Thank you. Proceed, Ms. Merritt. And can we also avoid getting opinions from witness? But I didn't pick that up. If that is the case, the court will have to look into at the record. Continue.
My lady, I was saying I appreciate the court's concern. And I'm about to take the witness to a specific patient. But sometimes it's necessary to precede your questions with something that appears to be a general statement. And if the court could bear with us just for 1 or 2 questions as we get to what we're trying to do, then you'll see that it's not a general statement that's, not
Please
trying
go
to get to.
That's fine. You can go to the specifics so that we can understand where you're getting. Thank you.
My lady, if the witness can return.
Yes. Can you assist us, Mr. Late or Ms. Marriott? Thank you.
Ms. Gordon, you mentioned Franz Decker.
That's right, Counsel.
Did you have direct contact with Mr. Franz Decker? Did you take care of him on the occasions that you visited?
On the days that I was there, we were doing his dressing on his ear.
So the answer
I wasn't
is
there every day.
But
yes,
you had direct contact with him?
Yes,
okay.
I did, my lady.
And what did you observe about his condition?
That his ear was septic.
Is that all?
And he wasn't well at all.
And when
just a second there. Yes.
And do you recall when you attended to Mr. Decker?
I cannot specifically tell you exactly which day, but...
Can I take you, Ms. Gordon, to a report by Professor Pinar, which is at page 4799 of case lines. Do you see it?
Introduction.
Yes. So this is part of this is in the case docket for Mr. Decker. And if you scroll down, it's a report on Mr. Decker. And if you scroll down to the last page of the report, which is page 4805, you'll see it was prepared by a Professor Abel Pinar on 31 October 2019. Do you see that?
I see that, Council.
If we can start again from 4799.
Oh, just a second. Okay, yes, continue.
From 4799, that is of the report by Professor Pinar. On the second page, 4800, he describes the name, Franz Johannes Abraham Decker, and you'll see under deceased, it says 7 November 2016. That's the date of death of Mr. Franz Decker.
I see that, Council.
And then he describes Mr. Decker's mental health status under paragraph 3. He says the patient was diagnosed with dementia, which is a progressive loss of brain function that leads to impaired cognition, deceased functional performance, and declined socially acceptable behavior. And the patient was on the following treatment, and he lists the treatment. Do you recall that Mr. Decker was on this treatment?
Where does this noise come from, please? Can I ask you to mute yourself if you are not addressing the court, please? There is this funny sound, I don't know where it comes from. Okay, let's proceed. I hope you're not going to hear it again. Proceed.
Council, I cannot recall the medication. It was long ago.
Okay. If you scroll down to page 4802, there's a transfer report. And this is by the nursing sister who received. So what happened is Mr. Decker was transferred to Kalafong Hospital. And there's a report that Professor Pinar refers to, transfer report. You'll see it under paragraph 5. And it says, do you see that? According to the statement given by Sister Dupur Motiba, the deceased was ill-looking, weak, with bed sores, and no nursing report brought forward. Do you recall that Mr. Decker had bed sores?
He definitely had bed sores because that was what Karina had told me also.
Come again?
I wasn't nursing him constantly. I was only there certain days, so
you did not
nurse him. Yes, no.
You didn't, okay.
So you did not observe that he had bed sores when you were caring for him?
We were attending to his bed sores.
Come again?
When we nurse a patient, we nurse them in totality. So it's just that I cannot recall, but he definitely had bed sores because it is what distributors ulcers refer to.
Or you agree that he had bed sores?
That's right, my lady.
And Ms. Gordon, in your experience as a nurse, do you know how bed sores come about?
It's a pressure area. That is, if a patient lies constantly on one area, then they develop pressure sores. They should be turned at least 2 hourly or 4 hourly. And an NGO should not have such patients. They should have stable patients, which means the patient did not even belong there in the first place.
What do you mean by stable patients?
According to circular number 101, it's just a pity I don't have it here. I have given it to my lawyer that all NGOs should admit circular 101.
Circular 101?
101. That an NGO should not admit unstable patients.
Where do we get this?
It's one of our circulars that we received from the directorate.
Okay, so you said you gave it to your representative.
No, I'm just saying, my lady, that an NGO should not actually have admit unstable patients.
Yes, but I need a copy of this. Where can we get this?
Yeah.
You don't know?
No, I do have it, but not with me now.
Can you arrange with your Ms. Toka for the court to have it? Continue.
Yes, my lady, we'll make arrangements. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
Thank you, my lady. Ms. Gordon, on page 4803, the last paragraph. You there? On page 4803, are you on page 4803?
I'm there.
It reads, shortly after the deceased admission at Kalafong, the clinicians assessed that his condition was significantly ill and requiring surgical intervention. Initially, there was no immediate family member to give consent for such intervention. Consent given by the deceased sister, and the deceased underwent debridement surgery in theatre on 22-10-2016 for the diagnostic multiple septic bed sores by Dr. Motseo. The deceased never recovered from the illness and subsequently died on 07-11-2016. Do you have a comment on this condition of Mr. Franz Decker of having multiple septic bed sores, as in your experience as a nurse?
Can you just repeat that again, please?
What do you understand by multiple septic bed sores?
It's widespread bed sores on the patient's body.
Is it serious?
It's very serious.
And how does that come about?
When a patient is exposed to long hours of lying on the same area or pressure part. But it could have been that the patient was admitted from Life Esidimeni with those bed sores.
Well, the patient was admitted.
Wheelchair bound.
Okay, so the patient was admitted at Kalafong Hospital from Tsapong Care Center with multiple septic bed sores. Do you see that? Do you agree with that?
It could be. That's what he said.
Okay. Let me take you then to the next page. Well, the same page that we had turned over to 4804. And again, it's the last paragraph. And it's under paragraph 7. It says alleged health professional health misconduct. And in the middle of the paragraph, Professor Pina says, it is therefore evident that there is negligence in healthcare delivery, in especially the NPO environment, because no records of consistent healthcare exist. As far as my experience stretch, bed sores only develop due to incapacity and lack of care in especially this healthcare user's context. Do you agree?
Counsel, I cannot agree with it because I did not admit the patient. I did not have first contact with the patient. I think the managers or the nursing personnel of Tsapong would be able to answer that question.
You're saying that you did not have sufficient contact with Mr. Decker to be able to make this observation?
No, your counsel.
And there was, you say in your statement that you were there to support Tsapong Care Center.
Yeah, not full time.
So how many times did you go to Tsapong Care Center then?
As I said, I worked there for a day or two over weekends when staff was short because staff just did not come to work because of lack of payment. And that is when me and Mogale stepped in and relieved one another to help over weekends, but it was only just 1 or 2 days.
And you stepped in because there were staff shortages?
Yes, because we normally don't work at the NGOs.
But you were there to provide support from your evidence, isn't it?
Yes, I was giving support.
And that was the period. That was the period from June to August, as indicated in your statement.
Yes, my lady, and Tsapong had the most patients, 185. For an NGO to have so many patients, it's really too many.
Why is it too many?
It is why they couldn't cope with the amount because, I mean, how many staff do you get for so many patients?
So surely in those circumstances, the patients would suffer. Yes or no, Ms. Gordon?
I wouldn't know, but that's what normally happens.
But why do you complain about the number of patients? And then when you are asked the question, you say you didn't know. Because it means there was a crisis. That is the reason why you had to go and assist even over weekends.
Yes.
So why don't you?
Exactly my point.
Yes, so there was a crisis indeed. So it means Tsapong couldn't have been able to care for all these patients.
As I said, too many patients were sent to them.
Thank you, my lady. I have no further questions for this witness.
Thank you. Now is the turn for Ms. Mjerere, am I correct? Are you the one to follow now?
Yes, my lady.
Ms. Koka, I see your hand is still up.
My apologies, my lady. I'll lower it. Thanks.
Please do that. Ms. Ndyarara, do you have questions to this witness?
I don't have questions for this witness, my lady.
Thank you. Ms. Foster, where are you? I see there is a hand. I don't know whose hand is that. Mr. Martin?
Thank you, my lady. It's mine, my lady. I mentioned earlier that I had no questions for the witness except for a clarification question. I don't want to step in out of line now.
Come again?
I just have one. I said I don't want to step in out of line now because I mentioned earlier that I had no questions for the witness, but I just do have one clarification question, and if now I will be very, very quick.
All right.
Can I just ask you, what do you mean, or what did you mean when you said that this NGO should not have accepted an unstable patient? And I'll tell you why I ask you that question, because when I look at the report that you were just referred to by Ms. Hassim, it seems that this patient was wheelchair bound and he had dementia. That was his condition, and presumably that was his condition upon admission. So what do you mean when you say he was unstable?
Counsel, if I can explain to you, an NGO is a home next to a home. An NGO is not a hospital. So to send such sick patients to an NGO is not fair. I mean, a patient that needs hospitalization, that has got bed sores, he's just not well.
Well, we don't know that he was sent to the
That's
NGO
what
with
I mean.
bed
If I can
So that's
get
why I
to
ask,
that
what do you mean by
circular
unstable?
day- If I can get you the circular 101, then you'll understand what I'm saying about down referral of patients, chronic stable patients to an NGO.
Is there some sort of accepted definition of what it means to be unstable that you could give us?
Mm. Does the circular explain
The fact that he had multiple bed sores and he also had dementia. I mean, it's just not fair for a patient to be at an NGO.
Okay.
He needs
I'm sorry, I don't want
care.
to repeat myself, but as I said earlier, we don't know that he was transferred with bed sores.
Yes.
So that's an assumption that you're making. Is there something about the fact that he has dementia and wheelchair bound that makes him unstable?
The patient was sick.
Yes, but were you there when the patient was transferred to Tshepong on that particular day when he was transferred?
I did not. I could not remember him, but I know that he was transferred to Tshepong.
But
I did not
check
physically.
Yes, that is why
Yes, he was in a wheelchair.
While we're still on this point, I remember you mentioning that he could have come from life Esidimeni with those bed sores, but this is something that you didn't witness, isn't it?
I did not witness it because I didn't physically examine him on that day, my lady.
Yes. Okay. So do you know as to how many days after he was transferred to Tshepong were you in a position to make contact with him or physically observe him when you were there to support? Do you know? Is there something that you can tell us?
I cannot exactly remember how many days, but Karina did actually mention to me that how could I bring such sick patients to the center?
Okay.
Right. Thank you, milady. I was just hoping for some clarity on on what the term meant.
Thank you. Then Miss Foster. Okay, before this, Mr. Hutamo.
Yes, my lady, we just wanted to give an indication that we do not have questions to the witness insofar as the evidence that she had already put before court.
Okay. Ms. Foster?
As it would please, my lady. My lady, I just also want to ask clarifying questions on what Mr. Martin has now asked this witness. My question is the following. I understand from you that you say that Mr. Dacker was an unstable patient, and we understand that from the circular that you've mentioned.
Before you do that, if we may check, was Mr. Decker one of your clients before we?
No, my lady, but it goes to my clients as well. So I wanted to define.
How does it go to your client?
Because some of my clients was also wheelchair bound, and it's got. But it doesn't matter. It will help the court. I just want to explain the
I don't want us to be taking too much time.
I understand that, my lady. I promise I won't do that. But it is in all our best interest to understand if it has some kind of implication on our clients as well. So I just want to go to the concept of stable and unstable.
Okay.
And if I understand the witness correctly.
Is that the only question to the witness?
No, I've got two other questions, my lady.
I hope we are not going to fight. Okay, continue. Continue with this one, and then which will be the second the questions thereafter?
I want to go to paragraph 8 of her statements that specifically refers to Sia Badinga and Cullinan Care Centre. And I just want to ask one question of clarifying on what Mr. Van Bergen is.
Yes, continue.
That's a good, please. Sorry, my lady, I'm a bit upset that the court want to fight with me, but I'll proceed. Okay.
Continue.
Ma'am, can you please tell me, I want to go back to my question, I'll just rephrase it. I want to know, you told the court that Mr. Dacker was an unstable patient. Then you said that in the circular that you've mentioned, the difference between a stable and an unstable patient will be clarified. Am I correct? The definition of what is stable and an unstable patient is, we will be able to find that in that circular that you've mentioned. Is that correct?
Council, Circular 101 will explain to you what an unstable patient is.
Okay.
To send to an NGO. It's not supposed to be sent to an NGO.
Okay. Was there any other unstable patient except for Mr. Dacker at Sipon that you have knowledge of?
I have no knowledge of it because there were so many, and
so it's possible. Is it possible?
It's possible, yes.
So when you have witnessed these unstable patients, Mr. Dacker, and you arrived there and you worked there for 1 or 2 days over weekend for this 3-month period, what did you do when you realized that he was not supposed to be there?
He was referred to hospital. We made means for him to get help. We made the professional nurses and the manager aware that this patient belongs in hospital.
Okay. So it's not that he was there the previous weekend and you saw him again the next weekend, the moment you realized that you sent him to hospital. Am I correct?
When I saw him, yes.
Ma'am, are you still employed by the Department of Health? Are you still working there?
Yes, I am.
Where are you currently
I'm working at the district.
The same position?
Tshwane District Mental Health. Tshwane District Mental Health. In the Fetcher Forum building. On the 12th floor.
Thank you. I would like to refer you to your statement. It's on page number 410, and I specifically want to refer you to paragraph 8. You can tell me if you are there.
Page?
410. My lady.
Page? I don't have the page.
410.
Okay, I think it. Continue.
Thank you, my lady. paragraph 8 says, on 2016-06-20, I attended a meeting at the Gauteng Department of Health Directorate chaired by Mr. Musonoghi. The meeting was about the working relationship between Anchor House and Siyabadenga Care Center. Ma'am, sorry, I should have told you, I'm representing 4 families of the deceased persons. All 4 of them was at the Cullinan Care Center, whereof 3 of them died at the end of the day at the Siyabadenga Care Center. So I just want to know, what is this meeting about the working relationship? What did you mean by this? Can you just explain it? What was the problem? Why was it discussed on a meeting?
The mere fact that Siyabadenga was firstly referred to as love disciples, and as I said there, I don't know exactly
Mr. Shabangu?
As a court, this is my lady.
What is happening? Is that an objection?
Yes, my lady.
Yes.
My lady, I object to this line of questioning because this evidence is on record, my lady. This matter was very, very addressed by my cross-examination to Mr. Musonoghi, as well as Dr. Lebete. So therefore, my lady...
Can the witness just step aside? Can the witness step aside for a while, please? I think you're having a problem. Yes, can I hear Ms. Foster?
As a good, please, my lady. My lady, this goes to credibility and I want to ask this witness, what is the meeting about? A reconnection that was held between a working relationship between Siyabadenga and Anchor House. She was part of that meeting and she's more than capable of answering my question. It was not my questions that I've asked previously. This is now my cross-examination and I want her to explain what her feeling was, what happened at that meeting regarding the working relationship. Okay. As a good, please.
Mr. Shabangu, do you still persist with your cross-examination?
As a court pleases, my lady, I still do persist.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's allow Ms. Foster so that we don't know what type of questions is she going to ask after this.
Thank you.
Can the witness come back? I hope you are not going to repeat what is already on record. It's fine. Let's proceed. You just want to hear her side of events, isn't it?
As a good, please.
Continue.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you want me to repeat my question or did you hear my question?
Can please repeat it,
I want to know regarding paragraph 8. You said you attended the meeting on the 20th of June, chaired by Mr. Musonoghi, and the meeting was about the working relationship between Anchor House and Siyabadenga Care Center. Can you please tell the court what was that meeting about according to your observation? What was the problem?
Counsel, there was clearly some friction between Anchor House manager and Siyabadenga manager because they were suspecting Mr. Wagner to be there. And as I said, I didn't have personal knowledge of what happened really, but it was just for them to sort out their issues. That who's going to receive patients.
Okay, at that stage, both
and Anchor.
Sorry, I've interrupted you. Are you finished? There's something else?
I'm finished.
Thank you. Okay, my question is the following. Both of these NGOs were at the Siyabadenga, at the CCR, on the premises of the CCRC. Do you have any knowledge on why patients was moved from CCRC to Siyabadenga to make way for Life Esidimeni patients to move in?
I had no idea. I was not involved.
Would you agree with me that CCRC was not supposed to form part of the Madison project? It was not Life Esidimeni patients that was housed at CCRC at that stage. Is that correct?
I cannot attest to that, counsel.
So why did you find it necessary to mention it in your statement? If you had no knowledge thereof, why was it important for you to mention it in your statement?
I did say there at the end of my paragraph that I did not have knowledge of how Siabadinga was established.
Okay, but just listen to my question. Why was it necessary for you to mention it in your statement? Why did you think it was important to mention it in your statement? Was there something that bothered you? Why did you feel it was necessary to mention it if you did not have any knowledge of the situation?
But just before Mr. Pihlela comes up with his objection, my understanding of the response, she has responded in the sense that she says that the reason is that, I don't know, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, you can just confirm. If I understood your evidence, you are saying the reason is because you didn't know how Siabadinga was established, something like that. Is that what you're saying?
That's right, my lady.
Yes, I think that was the reason. If you look at, that's how I understood her evidence, maybe, but she has confirmed. Because as I look at the paragraph also, it merely talks about the fact that Siabadinga, she only knew Love Disciples, which was replaced by Siabadinga after the manager pulled out of the project. And then she says, I do not have any knowledge of how Siabadinga was established. Can we pass this unless if...
Lady, I just want to ask one more question. My question remains. I want to know, why did you deem it important? Did somebody ask you to explain? Or why did you feel it necessary to mention something in your statement that you had no knowledge of? Were you asked about it? Were you asked if you had any knowledge? Did somebody... I still do not understand, why did you mention it in your statement if you knew nothing about it? Were you asked about it? To make a comment?
I cannot recall, but I was probably asked to mention what happened.
Mr. Pihlela?
I cannot recall really.
As it pleases my lady. My lady, I think this line of questioning, where is it taking us? How is it useful or beneficial or contributing to the determination of causation? Because when I adopted the same line of questioning with the previous witness, it was objected to and I was overruled. So I want to understand where we are going with this.
My lady, may I ask why Mr. Pihlela is raising the objection? Am I contravening on some of his client's territory, or why is he raising the objection? Or is it just because he wasn't allowed and now I must not be allowed? I don't understand. So it's just a very simple question. I just wanted to know if there's anything else that you has.
Sometimes things like this, they just waste a lot of time.
I agree, my lady. I would have
Pihlela, if I may, just a second.
My lady, I represent
just a second, Mr. Pihlela. I'll give you. You want? Yes. I want to say that I noticed you late. This question has been answered. The witness said she doesn't recall. Can we give Ms. Foster the chance now, and then in case there is something you are free to object, right? Because I haven't yet got the crux of where she's going now with her cross-examination. I'll just wait to hear. If I feel that she's out of line, I think you can also indicate. And can we proceed now? Thank you.
As it pleases me.
Ms. Foster, you may proceed. I think you are done with this paragraph. The witness has responded. Please, it's up to you what you do with the response. Her reply. Continue.
Thank you, my lady. Ms. Gordon, you have testified when Mr. van Bergen asked you regarding the fact that you and Ms. Jacobus had to run around and fix what should have been there in the first place. Can you remember that?
I can remember that, counsel.
Now, my question to you is, who was supposed to ensure that the NGOs was in order? Who was supposed to ensure that everything will be okay and you did not have to run around to fix everything up? Who was the responsible person?
The fact is, there was not given enough time for the NGOs to prepare these things. The NGOs themselves, with the help of the district. But it was a rush thing and there was no time to prepare. Things were not done in order.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you again, who was the person who was supposed to ensure that the NGOs, everything was in place and there was not supposed to be this running around?
I'm saying the NGO managers together with the district and the directorate.
So you don't want to mention names. So it's all of you, in other words. All of you were responsible.
Yes, all of us.
Thank you. I just want to put it to you, and I will leave it for argument, that I'm going to latch on with what Mr. van Bergen has put to you, that will also be my argument, that you committed fraudulent activities when you did not even only change numbers or information on those reports, but you also changed pages, the first and the second page, and you dated, you attached the first and second
just
pages.
A second. There is an objection here, Ms.
Not
Marriott.
a question, my lady. I'm just putting to the witness. That's what I'm going to put to her. So Ms. Marriott cannot object.
But if it's not a question, you can just leave that for argument, isn't it?
But then I haven't put it to this witness, my lady.
Yes, let's hear Miss Marriott first. We don't know what she's going to say here. Miss Marriott?
My lady, firstly, the witness already testified pertaining to the allegations of fraud. Secondly, it's my respectful submission. She's not an accused person being accused of standing on charges of fraud. So it's my respectful submission. As the court indicated, this statement can be left for argument.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin? Can the witness
Thank you, my lady.
step aside, please?
The witness doesn't need to for this, my lady. It's just a general proposition of law.
Right.
If you put a version to a witness, the whole point of that
that's
is that
fine.
the witness can comment.
It's just that sometimes it doesn't augur well when the witness is listening to.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
My lady, I was just saying that if you put a version to the witness, it is so the witness can comment. That's the point of putting the version. So one cannot put a version, and then when there's an objection to it, say I'm not putting a question to the witness. I'm only putting a version to the witness. The elements of what is required in a fair cross-examination remain the same, whether you're putting a version or whether you're putting. So that's all, lady. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Foster?
My lady, sorry, I'm at a loss. I don't have any answer. I thought that the whole purpose is that you have to put to a witness if you cross-examine, but I will leave it at that. In any event, if the witness wants to answer to it, she's more than welcome. We have been sitting through.
You have indicated that was not a question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my version. Because
but in any event, what I would like to say with regard to this matter, it was dealt with by Mr. van Bergen. If you want to use it, you can do so during argument.
My lady, may I just make one more comment? I think the evidence leader must just be very careful, because on previous questions, there was also objections raised and said that the witnesses must be warned if they are going to incriminate themselves. So the same goes for the witness who has obviously not been warned about answering incriminating questions.
Yes,
but I'm finished. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Did we agree that we are going to sit throughout the lunchtime? I see, did we agree that we're going to sit throughout lunchtime? Because of...
My lady, until 1:45, as far as I'm aware.
Up until 1:45, ne? Yeah. Okay. I see there is a hand by Mr. Martin, unless if he forgot to put it down.
I forgot to put it down, my lady. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Van Bergen, did you want to say something before I go to the next counsel who's going to cross-examine?
My lady, Ms. Marriott said what I was going to say, that we're sitting until quarter to two.
Yes, I just wanted to check. I remember the time, but I wanted to check whether we agreed to skip our lunch and proceed.
Yes, she was just a bit quicker on the draw than I was.
That's fine, that's fine. Mr. Sibara's team, who's going to, do you have questions to this witness? We didn't hear anything. Is that you, Mr. Makani? Mr. Sibara's team, is this not your turn to ask questions in cross-examination? In case you intend to do so?
We intend to do so, my lady. However, my lady, we thought would be last when other team.
Who did you tell? You thought? Did you ask that question from court?
My lady, we are asking if we could be last. In the event others don't have questions, we can start on Monday.
Okay. It will depend, Mr. Makani. All right. Then, obviously, Ms. Seboko, I don't think you will have questions, Ms. Seboko. Before I come to you, Mr. Ramaimela. Ms. Seboko, are you there? Nelison, can you check if Ms. Seboko was there today? Because one would assume that people are attending the proceedings.
Judge, she was not here this morning, but I know that her PA is part of the proceedings. I'm not sure if she's with her or not. I can just quickly give her a call, Judge.
Okay, can we proceed? Ms. Ramaimela?
Yes, my lady.
Do you have questions? Thank you.
As the court pleases.
Ms. Maite, Mr. Shabangu, and Ms. Mboweni.
May it please you, my lady. I have no questions for this witness. The issues have already been discussed and traversed.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Shabangu.
As a court, please, my lady, I have no question for this witness.
Thank you.
As a court.
May it please the court, my lady, I have no questions for this witness.
Lady, just a second, I've noted you, and let me go through my list first, unless you want to report about someone.
Yes, my lady, I've got Ms. Seboko on the line on speakerphone. May she address you?
Lady, it's me. I have no questions for this witness, my lady.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Manamela, are you there? Mr. Manamela, I have not excused Mr. Manamela from today's proceedings. Nelliso, has she been part of the roll call? Was he present there?
No, Judge, he wasn't.
Has there been any replacement? Somebody who's standing in for him?
Not that I know of, Judge.
Okay, thank you.
He didn't mention anything today.
We pass then it will be Mr. Profi.
May it please the court. My lady, I find myself in a difficult position at the aid of the court, stemming from Mr. Can the court hear me? Can my lady hear me?
Yes, I'm listening.
Stemming from the cross-examination by Mr. Van Bergen, I was in consultation with the NGO, and there is documentation which she wishes to put forward to this witness, and that evidence needs to be compiled and sent to the evidence leader. And my lady, I submit that it is crucial to my cross-examination, but also once I have the documentation, it then will circumvent a multitude of my questions.
Which documentation are we talking about?
It's email correspondence between the witness and the NGO.
Okay.
And so I wait that.
The specific NGO that we are representing, Buhle.
Correct, my lady.
Yes.
As well as agendas to meetings, and I require that full information, and so I do not want to proceed. I'm asking not to proceed on a piecemeal and having to constantly.
When will the information be uploaded, or when will you be in possession of the information?
I've asked for it to be fully compiled by this weekend, so that latest Monday morning it can be given to the evidence leader to not delay this witness or having her to be called back. So what I'm asking.
Then will you then be in a position to proceed with your cross-examination? Because remember what we said about documents
being filed at the last minute. I was only made aware of these documentations this morning, my lady, which is why I couldn't have it before the court, before this witness had testified.
But will you be able to proceed then with your cross-examination on Monday?
If I have the documentation and the court is inclined to allow me to proceed, absolutely.
Okay. There is this request. I think fair enough, he must be given that opportunity. I don't know what is the feeling of the others. Mr. van Bergen?
Thank you, my lady. My lady, my submission would be that if new documentation is sought to be introduced, the other parties to the proceedings should be provided with a fair opportunity to peruse that documentation and, if necessary, take instructions thereon.
Yes.
My apologies, my lady. My concern is that if it is only uploaded on Monday morning, I think it would infringe on all the other parties if evidence were to be led on it immediately. I have no objection to the documentation being uploaded, but it should be dealt with fairly. So if a solution could be found to that,
okay.
I submit there is no objection then.
Okay, can I hear the others? Mr. Profi, I'll come back to you. Before I see the number of people here, can we ask the witness for now, even if she can just take a break, Mr. Late? But the witness is warned that she is still under oath, but she shouldn't be far away in case we proceed. Yes, Mr. Pienaar?
May it please the court, my lady. I want to concur with what Mr. van Bergen has presented to your ladyship, and I think I would venture to suggest it would be fair to all the parties to be able to scrutinize the contents of the documentation, be it then on Monday, and then
proceed after that.
Yes, my lady, that I think I would submit would be proper and would give all the parties the opportunity then to deal with the information contained therein, should it in any manner have an effect or reflect on their clients' positions, my lady.
Okay, thank you very much.
As the court pleases, my lady.
I see there is another hand. It was Miss Kasim. I don't know who was the other one. Miss Hasim? Yes.
My lady, I'm covered really. I agree with my learned colleagues that we'll know on Monday when we see it. At this point, we don't know how documents, what the volume of documents are, and whether they're relevant to our clients or not. But as long as the parties have an opportunity to address what's in the documents, if need be, we should proceed on that basis and let Mr. Profi upload it by Monday morning. Thank you.
Can I hear from any of the evidence leaders? I see there is a hand. I don't know whether Ms. Hasim forgot to lower her hand.
I'm trying to lower it, my lady.
Okay.
My lady, if my learned friend uploads the documents anytime this weekend, if you could just send me a message or give me a call, then I'll upload it to case lines over the weekend.
Okay. But in any event, we are agreed that as soon as the documents are uploaded, maybe it's between you and him, and as soon as they are uploaded, parties should be afforded the opportunity to
yes, I have the facilities. I have the facilities at home to upload it to case lines. So Mr. Profi is welcome to send it to me anytime over the weekend.
Is it possible that the documents can be obtained over the weekend, so that one shouldn't just be waiting for Monday? If worst come to us, we'd say okay Monday, but is there a possibility that you can get the documents prior to Monday?
My lady, before I answer the question, ma'am, I agree with the evidence leader, and I would prefer to send it to him because I do not want to mess with the numbering in the pages of case lines.
Right. Just liaise with him.
I will do that.
And Ms. Coker there, can I hear you?
Yes, my lady. My lady, we're talking about the documents that I have not had an opportunity to look at, and now Miss Gordon is on the stand. I cannot talk to her, and I do not know what is contained on those documents. Perhaps, my lady, if Mr. Profi can also send the documents to me over the weekend, just for me to have a look and decide on them.
That is between you and the evidence leader. We have taken a note that obviously you haven't seen the document, so we understand on that aspect that you will be allowed to consult with your client. Thank you very much. Can we then it means on this basis, I think one will have to stop the cross-examination at this point so that we can first see as to what Mr. Profi has, and then we will take it from there. Can we therefore adjourn these proceedings until Monday morning?
As your ladyship pleases.
Because there won't be any point of proceeding now while there are documents that they still feel should be uploaded. On this note, can I first, where is the witness? Mr. Late? Ms. Coker, is your hand lowered or what is happening there?
Lady, the witness will use my computer for the remand.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon, the evidence leaders will liaise with you. We expect you to be back in the stand on Monday morning at 10 o'clock. At this stage, the court just wants to warn you that you are still under oath, and then you need not talk to anyone regarding your evidence, except for the issue regarding these documents that we don't know what they are, where your counsel will be allowed to consult with you regarding this. And on this note, the proceedings are adjourned until Monday morning. What is the date on Monday?
It's the 14th of February, my lady.
The proceedings are adjourned to the 14th of February, 2021.
2022, my lady.
2022, thank you very Yeah, thank you very much. The proceedings are therefore adjourned. Thank you.
May it please the court, my lady.
The court, please, my lady.
Please, this my lady.
Yes, my lady.